In today's video, I want to take you guys through rumors about an absolutely huge remake being in development, a Red Dead Redemption remake. We just had the release of Red Dead Redemption 2, less than a year ago? And now there are rumblings that the first game might be remade. I want to take a look at all of the news regarding that. Also, one of the highly anticipated upcoming Japanese RPGs is Ys 9 Monstrum Nox. Unfortunately, at this point, it does not have a Western release plan. Now, I'm pretty sure that's going to change given that the Ys games have done pretty well over here in the West, but we'll take a look at what was said. Also, we've got new gameplay details on Cyberpunk 2077, details on the skills, perks, religions, and much more, so we'll take a look at that at the end of this video. But first up, I want to give you guys a heads up on all of this information regarding a Red Dead Redemption 1 remake. Now, I was of the notion that an RDR1 remaster would have been huge to release right before the release of Red Dead Redemption 2. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and we've seen Rockstar do ports and remasters in the past. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 5 is still one of the PlayStation 4's biggest games today, and of course, that started out as a PlayStation 3 game, so it wouldn't have been all too far from the norm had Rockstar done a RDR1 remaster, although that game is a little bit older. When you take a look at GTA 5, GTA 5's remaster or port on the PlayStation 4 came just a year after the original release. At the point that I was calling for a remaster, RDR1 had been out for like 8 or so years, and maybe Rockstar felt that the game was a little bit dated, but let's take a look at what an anonymous Reddit user who allegedly knows one of the Rockstar Games environment artists said. Now, obviously take this with a grain of salt, but here's what was said. Quote, all the new features from the new game are going to be imported into RDR1, plus the map is getting expanded a bit to make it more vast. RDR2 map is not a part of this because it is not needed in the story. It's mostly just making the desert bigger. Rob has came back and recorded new lines of dialogue to help connect the two stories, references to Arthur and the events of RDR2 naturally. It was originally slated for the 10-year anniversary of RDR1, but bugs have hindered the development a bit, so they've shifted 2/3 of the Red Dead Online team to the remake, hence the lack of an update as of yet. And it's currently in the time frame of being released either December 2020 to January of 2021. The anonymous leaker also revealed some details on Red Dead Redemption 2 single-player DLC, which will have an extremely wacky premise that's not too different from the one seen in Undead Nightmare. If you guys remember, that was a standalone expansion to Red Dead Redemption 1, and it was a little bit wacky to say the least. And it was noted, quote, he is working on Red Dead Redemption 2 story DLC. It's in the middle of development right now and is slated for a release of Q1 2020. It is alien-centered like people have rumored. This was hinted by the UFO Easter egg. You're still Arthur in this DLC. Now, what's a little bit strange to me with the Red Dead Redemption 1 remake is that December 2020 to January 2021 release window, December and January usually aren't seen as gigantic months that you would target a release for a game like this. Rockstar, generally speaking, have targeted for a spring release or a fall release. A December to January release time frame just seems a little bit out of the norm, but who knows, maybe that is a working time frame, maybe that'll be altered by the time this is ready to be released. But I think a Red Dead Redemption 1 remake could do very, very well, and I'm hoping it does come to fruition, because a lot of the times when I talk to people, it seems like they do have a more of a fond remembrance towards the RDR1 story rather than the RDR2 story. I thought Red Dead Redemption 2 was tremendous, and I honestly thought it was among the best games of 2018, maybe even the best game of 2018, but nonetheless not here to get into that debate right now. Red Dead Redemption 1 in its own right was a fantastic game, and what's interesting is that if it will be released in late 2020, early 2021, you would think that it would be a PlayStation 5 game, or maybe it'll be a cross-generation title. I mean, it is a remake of RDR1 at the end of the day, and it's not really noted, is this a full-on remake or is it a remaster and just expanding the content? Red Dead Redemption 1 is still somewhat of a recent release, where I think if you just remaster the game, add a little bit of content, throw in Undead Nightmare, you could release that at say $49.99 or even $59.99. Like, let's be real, Red Dead Redemption 1 is a game that people look back on so fondly that I think people would drop a full $60 on it had it include the base game, had it include Undead Nightmare, and if it does include some other refinements and upgrades. I think a $60 price point, while I'm not advocating that, I think they could get away with it, but nonetheless, we'll see how this pans out. Hopefully, we'll hear more official information rather soon, but at this point, if this remake is in development, it looks like it's still a ways away. Okay, next up, one of the highly anticipated Japanese RPGs is the latest game in the Ys franchise, in Ys 9 Monstrum Nox. Unfortunately, it looks like there is no Western release currently planned for the game. Falcom is currently focusing on finishing Ys 9's development and releasing it in Japan, and DualShockers recently had the opportunity to interview Falcom's president Toshihiro Kondo, thanks to NIS America inviting him as their guest of honor during Anime Expo 2019. While the interview mostly concerned Trails of Cold Steel 3's Western release, and the Trail series in general, DualShockers also got to ask whether or not Ys 9 would see a Western release, and here's the response they got. Quote, "For now, a Western release for Ys 9 isn't planned as we are focusing on completing its development and releasing it in Japan." Now, needless to say, this does not mean Ys 9 is never going to come out stateside. I would actually be of the mindset that at some point this is going to come stateside. However, I wish they could get some sort of agreement in place where some studio could be working on the translation of Ys 9 as it's in development over in Japan, so we could have a quicker release over here in the States. Sometimes we're waiting so long for these Japanese RPGs to be translated that if you're working on finishing the translation for Ys 9, and only after the conclusion of the development of that game that you're going to start working on the translation, well, that means it's going to take a very, very long time for the game to ever be released over here in the West. If it's going to be released later this year in Japan, then I would expect we're not going to see it over here in the States until late 2020, maybe even later than that, and at that point, that's a little bit of a bummer because it's still a PlayStation 4 game, and everybody's going to be focused on the PlayStation 5 by then. Hopefully, it's not too long of a wait, but you look at The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 3. When was Trails of Cold Steel 3 released in Japan? All the way back in 2017, I believe, so it would be best if we could shorten those time periods a little bit, but I get where they're coming from. They probably want to make sure that the Japanese release is as good as possible. That is where the bulk of their audience is, and then they'll worry about the translations, but still, it's a big bummer to me. Alright, moving on from that, Cyberpunk 2077 has also gotten a slew of new details, combining skills, over 60 perks, religions, and more. The new details have emerged online thanks to a new demo that has been shown to Polish media recently. 3 different outlets detail their impressions, and they have been translated and summarized on the game's official forums as reported on the NeoGAF forums. In Cyberpunk 2077, we can start a conversation with an NPC without leaving our bike or car. It works like a classic dynamic conversation. Some merchants will offer unique items and discounts only for a specified period of time or at specific times. You can buy various clothes like long jackets, sneakers, t-shirts, etc. Examples of programs that in Netrunit can buy a program to disable cybernetic eyes or another to block a cybernetic member. As you advance your hacking skills, the options will expand from a simple door opening to controlling cameras or turrets and more. Mini-games related to hacking will be different depending on the installation you hack. Bots can also hack at a distance. Increases are performed only from a specialist, but minor changes will be possible by ourselves, such as improving our mantis blade by adding poison. You can increase your skills by finding a trainer or installing certain implants. The scarcity of objects corresponds to its availability rate in stores. The more rare an object is, the more street cred it will take for a seller to offer it. Street cred will also increase the quality of buyable components for crafting. They have changed the way to show the damage compared to the 2018 demo and try several methods to indicate damage taken by the opponent without flooding the screen with numbers. The numbers are still there, but to a smaller extent, like adding special animations. The inventory will be limited according to the weight that can be transported. In Cyberpunk 2077, when V uses a glass bottle to shatter it on the skull of an opponent, this results in a bloody visual effect, and the shard of the bottle is still usable for impaling it in the body of an opponent. With Cyberpunk 2077, CD Projekt Red has also exacerbated community membership as a way for people to protect themselves from danger and poverty. The journalist noted that the presence of religion is likely to create a scandal, which CD Projekt Red responded with, quote, "We will not avoid any subject even if they may offend the sensitivity of some. We are not here to say whether it is good or bad." So that's pretty great if you were worried about Cyberpunk 2077 tackling some mature topics and whether or not CD Projekt Red would go all the way with it. Well, based on their statements, it looks like they are going to go as far as they can, and they're not trying to annoy people, but they're just trying to relay their vision into the game without any compromises, and I think we can all appreciate that. And lastly, it was noted the type of your character will be at your convenience. You will not necessarily choose strictly a man or woman. One can have a male body with feminine attributes, a feminine voice, and feminine hair. The type of voice will also impact how NPCs perceive us. There's a lot more information, and I'll leave a link in the description box below where you can check out everything. There's so much to digest with Cyberpunk 2077. It is going to be a massive game, and come Gamescom and as we get closer and closer to the release of the game, I imagine a lot more of the information is going to get rolled out. At this point, I think they can temper how much content they roll out based on the fact that I think the majority of people are just sold on the game based on what we've seen thus far. But nonetheless, it's always exciting to hear a little bit more about the game. And that's going to conclude this video. Again, a Red Dead Redemption remake looks to be in development, and it looks to be released late next year or early 2021. Again, I would take that with a grain of salt for now, but that could be very exciting. Ys 9 Monstrum is in development. Falcom is working on the game. However, at this point, there is no Western release planned, and a lot more information about Cyberpunk 2077 has come out. Again, link for that in the description box below. I only covered some of the highlights, but there's so much to digest with that game, so check that out. That's going to conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.